Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised. Everyone makes mistakes, but some people are dumb enough to make them on camera. A misguided football fan celebrates by shooting off fireworks into his own team. This wannabe rock star needs a little more support from his fans. A boneheaded boyfriend uses a candlelight dance to ignite the flames of passion. This dim-witted daredevil goes for the glory. But now he's all washed up. And a careless aircraft mechanic forgets to duck and is sucked into the engine of a fighter jet. If it's off the wall and it's on tape, then it's all here. It's totally outrageous behavior.
Texas Jack is a cowboy stuntman. For his big showstopper, Jack likes to fill a metal box with dynamite, stand on top of it, and hit the switch.
It's designed to give the effect of someone getting blown up, obviously.
Obviously. But on one special occasion, Jack decides to fill the box with a little extra gunpowder. Not to worry, this professional stuntman knows what he's doing, right? Wrong.
Oh my gosh!
The weakened metal gives way, and Jack is thrown 30 feet.
I think he got him that fight.
According to the cowboy, only one thing kept him from going to that big saloon in the sky.
Landed on my head, that's the only thing saved me. Hard-headed, you know.
And does he have any desire to repeat this performance?
Like my grandpappy said, if you fall off a horse, get right back on. Well, I think my grandpappy was wrong. I don't think I'm going to get back on that horse. No more explosions for me.
Although Jack's stunt work days are over, he doesn't miss them.
I went out with a bang. It's a good time to retire.
And that's good, because when it comes to common sense, it seems Texas Jack doesn't know Jack.
Oh my gosh!
Here's something you don't see on your average kiddie show. The host taking off his pants on live TV. So how did this happen? It all starts when celebrated TV funny man Willie Whistle meets a special guest.
This is Slim. Slim's a bull snake.
But Slim's harebrained handler is not paying attention, and she allows the 12-foot serpent to slip into Willie's pants. Why the sudden animal attraction?
I assumed that it was looking for a cooler, darker place to get into, and I was it.
So what was running through Mr. Whistle's mind?
I was hoping it didn't get into the shorts.
Now this funny man is sweating under his painted smile, because Slim the Snake is getting a bit too familiar.
I'm not sure this is decent enough for children's television.
So off come the pants and out comes Slim. And finally, this trouser snake is under control. A biker is pulled over for drunk driving.
In pursuit of a DUI suspect.
But he's so intoxicated, he doesn't even notice that a piece of hot ash from his cigarette falls onto his gas tank. The alert cop backs away, but the suspect is blissfully unaware that he's in danger. Eventually, he realizes that his moped is in flames.
We'll have fire rescue around.
But instead of running to safety, he carefully lays down his bike. Wouldn't want to scratch it. Hopefully, this man will quit smoking before the next time he decides to burn rubber. At a footwear fashion show, this curvaceous model is wearing a one-of-a-kind pair of 10-inch platforms. But she's got a fashion secret that makes her one-of-a-kind, too. Watch as she wows the crowd with her ultra-smooth moves. Then she seduces the photographers with her raw sex appeal. But the altitude must be getting to her because as she approaches the edge of the stage, she takes a tumble. Still, nothing can throw this consummate professional. She immediately regains her composure and loses her balance again. Only this time, she also loses that frilly wastebasket she's been wearing on her head. Finally, her secret's out. She's a heel. His runway career is over. But one thing's for sure, whoever replaces him will have some mighty big shoes to fill. After workers put the final touches on the lead float for the Spanish National Day parade, a ribbon-cutting ceremony is held. And a local pageant winner is invited to christen the impressive sculpture. But the bottle doesn't smash. Looks like she'll have to try it again. She winds up, and here's the pitch. And still it doesn't shatter. Now, third time's the charm. He's really going to put some muscle into it. The bottle doesn't break, but everything else does. It seems the builder spent his lunch break cracking open a few bottles of his own. Now these people have to watch their parade plans float away. During a rowdy rock concert, a radio host decides to try his first stage dive. This airhead expects his fans will catch him. But they don't, and he falls face first onto the concrete floor. Looks like this DJ will be off the air for quite a while. If he didn't have a face for radio before, he sure does now.
Coming up, a pumped-up fan celebrates a touchdown by shooting fireworks right into his favorite team. Plus, a crazy lady doesn't have the cash to take a cab, so she takes a police car instead. And a love-struck boyfriend gets his date a little too hot and bothered. Then later, after a 1-2 punch, this boxer flips his wig when totally outrageous behavior continues.
For this high school's big homecoming game, the team's biggest fan, Joel Fouts, plans to pump up the crowd with some fireworks. So when his purple-clad Broncos finally score, Joel takes his cue and shoots his fireworks into the players.
I've watched people set them off, and I mean, any dummy can do that. Little did I know, I wasn't even as good as a dummy.
By the time the smoke clears, the Broncos coach comes up with a surefire plan to avoid such disasters in the future.
I think definitely we need to keep Joel away from the fireworks.
But even though Joel's idea was a dud, he did find something to brag about.
I've gone to a lot of games, and they always shoot fireworks off, but nobody has ever shot anybody in the butt with fireworks.
So what will become of this Broncos booster?
I probably won't be in the Hall of Fame here.
That's okay, because Joe will always have a spot in the Hall of Shame. In Grand Rapids, Michigan, this dim bulb is pulled over for driving without her lights on. Until now, a law-abiding citizen, this woman is horrified to learn that she's failed a sobriety test. The officer reads the tipsy driver her rights.
You understand what I read to you?
No.
What part didn't you understand?
Can you repeat it all, please?
But here's something she does understand.
And you are under arrest.
The Rhodes Scholar is handcuffed and put in the back of the patrol car. But when the cop walks over to deal with her rowdy companion,
Hey, stop!
the suspect does the dumbest thing she'll ever do. She climbs in the front seat and steals the police car. So much for her clean criminal record. Always a courteous driver, Miss Manners stops at the red light, looks both ways, then barrels ahead. Moments later, the cops catch up with the renegade, but her joyride is just beginning. The fugitive heads for the freeway with the police in hot pursuit. Finally, the officers manage to block her in. This time, there's no way out. Except this way. After putting the pedal to the metal, she's on the road again. But she doesn't get far. After tangling with a concrete wall, her one-woman crime wave comes to an end.
Calm down, all right? I think you just caused enough trouble for tonight.
Faced with her first driving offense, this young lady flipped out and, in a matter of minutes, managed to add resisting arrest, grand theft auto, reckless driving, and assault with a deadly weapon to an otherwise spotless record. But that's what happens when you drive under the influence of stupidity. This rookie reporter will get a great new job if he can only perform well in this screen test. A routine story about New Year's Eve.
So much for the new year here in Trafalgar Square, but the scenes.
He tries again, but the drunken mob won't cooperate.
So much for the scenes of celebration here in Trafalgar Square.
If he was a pro, he'd have switched to another location. But does he? No.
So much for the dawning of night.
When push comes to shove, this reporter loses his cool.
So much for the dawning.
And by the time he finishes this report, the old year and his career are history. What could be more romantic than a beautiful candle dance? Maybe a moonlight drive to the emergency room. This man holds his candle too close and accidentally catches his date's hair on fire. A concerned friend leaps into action by pointing and laughing. Maybe the smooth operator finally realized that this girl is his perfect match. A lawbreaker with a low IQ has just stolen this 18-wheeler full of electronics. But as he races from the cops, he drives under a low bridge and rips a giant hole in the trailer. Now this trucker's really towing a wide load. Soon, his precious cargo begins to spill out onto the roadway, creating a perfect trail for the cops to follow. The dimwit drives until dawn, but eventually ditches what little remains of his big score. Within minutes, police capture the criminal and invite him to take a ride in their truck. Now the cuffed crook can only hope that the cops are better drivers than he is. At the New Hampshire primary, presidential hopeful Gary Bauer tries to impress voters by entering a pancake flipping contest. His throw looks great, but his catch needs work.
Candidate missing in action. Yes!
Bauer is quickly back on his feet
I'm a fighter, folks.
and puts a positive spin on his downfall.
I caught that pancake. So the extra effort I made just there is what I'll do as President of the United States.
His methods may be clumsy, but at least this candidate proved to voters that he'll bend over backwards for them.
Coming up, a second-rate stuntman tries to fly into the record books, but his career takes a nosedive instead. Plus, a family picks the wrong place for a picnic. And now they're turkeys in the straw. Then later, this aircraft worker always wanted to see the inside of a jet engine. Now his dream has come true. When totally outrageous behavior continues.
Daredevil Tommy Pearson has spent months preparing for a record-breaking jump across the Rio Grande.
No nets, no safety nets, no nothing.
And apparently no common sense either. Because Tommy knows his beat-up stunt car isn't fast enough to make the jump. But he tries it anyway. He races down the runway and soars right into the river. Now he's really up to his neck in trouble. Naturally, Tommy's able to explain his shortcomings.
I just couldn't get it up.
No kidding. But Tommy's not a quitter. And now that his car's all dried out, he's going to try the big stunt again.
I'll be back this summer, so I'm not the laughingstock at the Rio Grande in Texas no more.
So on his second attempt, Tommy wisely chooses a narrower part of the river. And this time, he takes another nosedive. This daredevil wanted to make a big splash. And that's exactly what he did. Police in Texas notice a drunk driver running another car off the road.
Going about 60, he's all over the road.
Then he takes a detour over the sidewalk
Turn off the magnolia one day.
before coming to a shaky stop. The driver gets out of the car.
Button your pants. There's kids out here.
But indecent exposure is the least of his problems.
I smell a little alcohol on your breath, sir.
The suspect answers the accusation with an invitation.
You want to drink a beer? Come to my house. I got plenty of beer. Okay, you too, man. You too. I got a lot of beer.
Evidently, safety comes first for this man. He's wearing a hard hat.
Anything wrong with your legs? You all right standing up? Or your age may affect that, maybe.
Maybe not. The man in the hard hat proves he's still light on his feet by doing a little soft shoe.
You ain't gonna make this easy.
Now all he has to do is walk a straight line. The officer asks the man for his license and registration.
You got your proof with you?
Yeah, about 80 proof. He goes to his trunk to look for his license.
Watch it.
And gets even further smashed. Maybe his license is in the back seat, under a few dozen empty beer cans. This man tried to bribe his way out of a ticket.
You want to drink a beer? Come to my house. I got plenty of beer.
But he can't tap dance his way out of this one. In this boxing match, the fighter in the red trunks is taking a beating that couldn't possibly get any more humiliating. Until the punches start to dislodge his toupee. Now he's so concerned about his hair that he forgets to protect his jaw. The merciless trouncing continues until finally, a right to the jaw flips his wig and sends him reeling. The fallen warrior has a moment to think about his future. And he decides that after this hair-raising experience, he'll need a stronger adhesive to keep his rug off the floor. These weekend sailors are marooned on their motorboat. But instead of waiting 5 minutes for the shore patrol to pull them in, they flag down a passing helicopter. Amazingly, the chopper pilot agrees to tow them to safety. The pilot knows that pulling the powerboat will be a snap. And he's right. The added weight of the boat sends the helicopter into the sea. And now, the boaters are saving the chopper crew. Looks like this pilot was too wet behind the ears to pull off a rescue like this. In a beautiful open field, this foolish family picks the worst possible place to set up their picnic, next to a towering wall of hay bales. Up comes the wind, and down comes the hay. The entire wall of hay. And now they're buried under a giant haystack. These hungry folks are more interested in finding their sandwiches than dear old Mom. She didn't like this picnic in the first place. And for her, this is the last straw.
Coming up next, an absent-minded sailor is swept off his feet by a revved-up jet engine when totally outrageous behavior continues.
Here's former naval officer J.D. Bridges walking through his hometown airport. But it's amazing he'd get anywhere near an airplane, considering what happened to him just a few short years ago. J.D. and his team were working on the deck of the USS Theodore Roosevelt.
I was training a new recruit to take my job, launching the aircraft off the catapult.
But when J.D. approaches the engine, he forgets the first rule of working on an aircraft carrier. Duck. In a flash, J.D. is sucked into the revved-up engine.
It was a mental error on my part. When I got sucked into the intake, it sucked off my helmet, my gloves, my coat, which shot out a fireball out the back. The topside petty officer seen it and told the pilot to shut the plane down, and within a minute, I crawled back out and then I blacked out.
J.D. is incredibly lucky and suffers only minor scrapes and bruises.
My helmet went through the intake, which pretty well, I think, saved my life. Most people that have been sucked into an engine, I think, got turned into chopped liver.
Today, J.D. makes it a point to stay out of aircraft engines. An important life lesson that he intends to pass on to his son, Blade.
Named him Blade for the simple fact his father almost got chopped up by the blades in the intake, and it just kind of fit him.